Welcome to the Legal Hour with Mike Chastain, a weekly show dedicated to exploring current legal issues and hot topics, giving you something interesting to talk about around the water cooler. Now, here's your host attorney, Mike Chastain.
Welcome and good afternoon to the Legal Hour with Mike Chastain. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. Looks like it's going to be great weather for the upcoming weekend, and it's certainly beautiful out there today. I'm here today flying solo. The Amazing E is not with us, unfortunately. She is back east visiting her parents and taking care of them. So I don't know if she's listening, but we wish her well and hope things are going well there. So it's just me today. But I'm not by myself because I am joined by a special guest, someone we've had on the show several times at this point. Topo Padilla is here. So how are we doing today, Topo?
Great. Beautiful afternoon outside here in Sacramento, and always just a pleasure to be here with you to discuss these very important issues.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. So today we're going to be, as typically with Topo, we're going to be talking about the bail industry, what's going on. As you guys who have been listening know, I've been trying to keep us up to date on the legislation and the lawsuits that have to do with the bail industry because, one, I think it's extremely important. Two, it's going to really impact how our criminal justice system continues to work. And as I've expressed before, I have some very serious concerns if we take the bail industry out of the equation. They provide some great services. We'll be talking about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about criminal justice reform. There's some bills that are moving through the legislature and that either are going to be on Governor Brown's desk today or in the next day or two. Today's the last day of the session, so it's kind of fish or cut bait day. So we're going to be going over those various topics and really exploring those. So, but before we get started on that, I did want to just have a little shout out to some really great work that the team in our office did. Did a preliminary hearing this morning over in Placer County, a young man charged with a robbery and a burglary. Judge found there was insufficient evidence to bind him over for trial, so that young man is going free, and it's the right decision. It's the judge who made that decision made the right one, and it's a gutsy call. It's always difficult for the judge to look the DA in the eye and go, "You just don't have it here. You haven't presented enough evidence to even make this young man stand trial." So it was a great result for him, a good result for us, and it's based on the hard work of our team. That's the way we do things, and we're very excited about that.
You know, Mike, if I can add something to that, people might look at you as a defense attorney and what you just somewhat celebrated. And, this nation is made up of laws, thankfully, and we've got the greatest criminal justice system in the world. And, people look at defense lawyers like, well, you're just out there defending bad guys and getting them off. And then, you just, somewhat celebrated. What you just celebrated was the rights we have as Americans. And not only do our citizens need to follow the law, but the prosecutors need to follow the law, the other side of the equation, the people that are prosecuting these people. And what you just said, in my mind, in my 34 years of being involved with this, is that they didn't meet the burden to prove that this young man was guilty. And, that's why our justice system works, because we have that, and we have or advocates like you, lawyers or advocates like you, that are making sure that the other side upholds their end of it. So for that, I applaud you and the criminal justice system.
Well, thank you. And it is a good example of how the system worked, although a little slowly. My client, has been in custody for a lot longer than I would have liked. But the system is really based on checks and balances. The district attorney made a decision. I didn't agree with that decision, but I understand why they did. But it got checked by the court that actually had to listen to the evidence. And what was interesting is this morning, and actually over the last week or so, I've been talking to the district attorney about seeing some way to resolve it, and they wanted this young man to plead to a felony, and we were not willing to do that. He wasn't willing to do it, and rightfully so. And he stuck to his guns, and he used the criminal justice system, and it worked. And so this is an example that it really does work. So now that we've established that the system does work most of the time, let's talk a little bit about where are things with the bail bond industry now.
Well, as we've talked about in the past, there's two bills in this legislature, pending this year, this session, AB 42 and SB 10. Both legislative movements were aimed at eliminating the bail industry. And some may say, well, why should they? Why shouldn't they? And their big thing is, when I say the criminal justice reformers, is that it is unfair for people to have to pay to be released from jail. It should not be based on their financial status. And while one could say, oh, that's a fair argument or a decent argument, I just watched a video today of Senator Kamala Harris, who used to be our Attorney General, who you think she's the top cop, right? Well, she too has bitten into this apple of bail shouldn't be based on money. Well, if it's not based on money, it's not. It's not based on how much money you have in the bank. It is based on that you have been charged with committing a crime. In order to get out of jail, we have to have some kind of a guarantee you're going to return to court, and that is a bail bond. And they're worried about the money that they're paying us and that we're big, greedy people. Well, no, we don't set bail. The courts set bail. And it is just about, and I'll end it with this, people appearing in court. If we really and truly want the best guarantee people are going to appear in court, they have to have skin in the game. And these bills were aimed at eliminating the industry and turning it over to a government-run and government-funded, not government-funded, taxpayer-funded program. And that's where we're at with that.
All right. Well, those are both the same. Government-funded, taxpayer-funded, tomato. There's really the money comes from the same place. We've talked about this at some length. The issue, primarily is that, bail, my position has been that, bail is set too high. The scheduled bails have been, not just creeping up, but, escalating up at a crazy rate. People are in on huge amounts of bail. I mean, this young man that I was talking about, his bail, okay, he's 18, he's never been in trouble, he's got no record at all, he's got, family behind him. His bail was set at $238,000. Mom just couldn't afford it. And that's why he sat in custody. We moved the case along as quickly as we could. We got him to prelim. The judge heard the evidence and said, you don't even have probable cause. Legally, you don't have probable cause to even make the young man stand trial for what he was charged with. And that was the critical thing, is that there might have been something else that they could have charged him with, maybe, but what they charged him with, robbery and burglary, they just didn't have it. So that young man, who never was going to go anywhere and wasn't a danger to the community, sat in because bail was set too high. And that's not the fault of the bail industry. That's just what the court did.
Yeah, and I will say to this on that case, and I don't know much about the case, if any, $238,000. Those numbers are high. Bail schedules are out of control in California. And, who do you blame on? Well, there's a multitude of entities you could lay blame on. But I will tell you, since 2011, our industry has been fighting and advocating for lower bails. And you say, yeah, right. No, we have been. We have fought down at that legislature. We've talked to judges. We've talked to the DAs. They all get it. It's just that nobody wants to do a comprehensive reform of it. In fact, so these legislators just want to eliminate it. It's harder to fix than it is to eliminate. Eliminate it would be easy. So,
well, then there's going to be a whole other host of problems that, because somebody's got to supervise these people. And as you've pointed out on a number of occasions, who goes and picks them up if they don't show? And that's part of what you all in the bail industry do, is not only do you guarantee that they're going to show up, but if they don't, you encourage them to make an appearance.
Well, and that's something, we made this promise last time, Mike. I'm going to hold you to it. To those out there listening, the next time I'm on here with Mike, we're going to have pictures that we can look at online on Chastaine Law, and you're going to have pictures of him with the vest and the cover. We're going to take him out, and I really mean this. It is important that people do understand that what we do, I mean, right now I'm sitting here in a suit and tie, that we do go out in our industry. I work with my father and my son, Brandon and Greg. We go out and we chase these people that will not listen to us or will not listen into their indemnitor, and we return them. And we do that at no cost to the taxpayers. That is our duty. That is our obligation. That is why the bail industry does, in fact, work. I just worked with a bail bondsman out of Alabama. He drove all the way out here to Alabama looking for a guy here, and he was not going to stop. I said, well, when are you going to call it a day and let me take over? And he says, I'm not going to. I'm going to find this guy. And I got this celebratory call 2 days ago, and he goes, we got him. And
so this guy came all the way from Alabama to pick up somebody here in California.
Yes, he did. And he, luckily enough, had a waiver of extradition. The guy had signed a waiver when he got out, and he drove him back. You know what the guy said to him on the way out? They're driving from from Modesto to they got him in Modesto to Alabama. He says, I'm relieved. I've been on the run now for 5 months. I haven't seen my family. I haven't had a job. This thing, and hopefully we can talk about it the next segment, what we do and with this criminal justice system should weigh well for both sides, the victims, our society, as well as the people that are accused of crime, just like you talked about with the young man in the prelim.
Okay. So we have to take a break, and we definitely will be back and talk about that in a few minutes here. So we'll be back in just a minute here on Money 105.5, The Legal Hour with Mike Chastain. A couple of drinks after work, think you're doing okay, get in the car, and boom, you see the flashing lights and your heart stops. Hi, I'm Mike Chastain of the Chastain Law Office, and I literally wrote the book, How to Survive a DUI Arrest, What You Need to Know. When you're pulled over for a DUI, how you act matters. Be polite, stay calm, and follow directions. It may mean the difference between going home or going to jail. My book provides critical information you need to protect your livelihood, your driving privileges, and your reputation. To get a free copy, go to www.yoursacduiattorney.com. You can listen to me every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. for the Legal Hour during the happy hour on Money 105.5 FM. If you've been arrested, call me for a free consultation right now. That's yoursacduiattorney.com. Bottom line, if you've been drinking, call for a ride. If you didn't and got caught, you better call Mike. I'm Mike Chastain, and my team fights for good people.
Now, back to the Legal Hour on Money 105.5 with your host, Mike Chastain.
And welcome back to the Legal Hour with Mike Chastain. I am Mike Chastain. I'm flying solo today, though. The amazing E is back visiting her parents. But I do have a special guest with us today. Topo Padilla is here, and we've been talking about the bail industry and kind of diving down a little bit into what bail bondman actually does. The last segment we were talking about the importance of going and getting somebody if they don't show up, and that's what bail bondsmen do to assure that folks come to court. And I agree with Topo. If somebody's charged with a crime, my goal is to get that resolved. And if they did it and the government can prove it and they can put that together, then there's consequences to that. Being a criminal defense lawyer doesn't mean you're pro-crime. I'm not pro-crime. I've got kids. I've got a family. But I am very pro-Constitution, and I'm very pro the rights that you have to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. It's easy to accuse somebody of something, but they got to prove it. I say that sort of as a roundabout way because sometimes there are things that have to get done that simply nobody else will do. And I'm going to tell a little story that Topo was very involved in just this week. I have a client who has been charged, who is of very poor health. The detective, I'd been talking to the detective for a while. She kindly gave me the heads up and said they filed a case against my client, and that's a whole other story. I'm surprised that happened, but she kindly told me, hey, we filed a case against your client. There's going to be a warrant going out, and so that gives us the opportunity to arrange a self-surrender. So at that point, I give Topo a call and I say, hey, can you, let's discuss bailing this gentleman out. And he offered to, walk him down and take care of him. The man's in a wheelchair, so to roll him down there and smooth out the process. Well, it kind of became a nightmare. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Topo? What did you go through?
Well, again, when you think of people that are arrested, everybody says, oh, criminals. Well, I 34 years of being in this industry, I just don't tend to look at people. They're a criminal. You can use that description if you want, but these are really nice folks. When I say folks, the family, just good people. If I told you their occupations, you'd be like, wow, what are they doing in your office? But they do have a family member that was going to be charged with this crime, and we took the gentleman down to the jail to surrender him, and he is in pretty poor health. Bail set pretty darn high for the crime. It's pretty high, and we couldn't get him booked into the jail. My son Brandon pushed him across the street in his wheelchair there and took him to the jail. They took him in. They said, hey, we're not taking him in. Now, what's their reasoning? Well, their reasoning is that he's in poor health. If he dies in their hands, that's not good.
No.
Should he be sitting in jail? No, he shouldn't. He should be out. This is where we need to get in front of a judge and say, Your Honor, and this is what the people on the bail reform side of things, this is where I don't disagree with him. Let's get in front of a judge and let's talk about this specific case. We need to make those kind of reforms. That's what our industry says. We could get in front of a judge down here, and they're going to look at this guy. They're going to look at the crime. Okay, call it a heinous crime or not. They could look at lowering this man's bail, making it affordable for the family, and not having him be a liability to our jail.
Right. Well, and this is sort of the rub is, whenever we wind up in a situation where there's been a bail, a warrant issued because the charge has been filed, I've had this happen numerous times where I have a client, they give me the heads up. I want to get the process going. The clients almost always want to get the process going. They're not going anywhere. They've already made all these arrangements. So how do we get them turned in and bailed out without them spending, 3 days in jail? And sometimes the bail is just set too high, and we want to go in front of a judge and make our pitch. Judge, these are the reasons why bail should be set at X, whatever X is, so the person can afford it and it doesn't bankrupt them. And unfortunately, some people are put in this Hobson's choice of either they bail or they hire a lawyer, but they can't do both because it's just too expensive. And I don't know if you have any statistics about this, Topo, but my belief is that folks who hire private counsel tend to show up to court, right? I mean, those stats are probably pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And I will tell you, the evidence of that is that our insurance company, when we do business through, we have a filed rate with the Department of Insurance. We have to file our rates. So we say our bail premium is 10% of the bail amount. Our insurance company, Lexington, went in and got our insurance rates lowered. We said we want the rate for somebody who has hired an attorney lowered because you're right. Our risk is lowered. Right. We did that. Our industry went in and did that. So you're exactly right. And in this instance, the case you're just talking about with your client, I told them, folks, you did the right thing. Look, I can get your loved one out of jail. Mike Chastain is going to see that his rights are upheld. And if he is an innocent man, which I tend to believe he is, Mike Chastain's going to help you prove that and prevent him from going to prison. So they did the right thing by hiring you, and subsequently maybe we can get the bail lowered and get justice served for this man.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that. It's just tricky to get in front of a judge and to have the hearing. The courts hate setting these things. I mean, it's like pulling teeth to get in front of a judge who will actually review bail before the person is booked in. They just don't like doing it. And I've gone in where I've got the district attorney on board. They agree that bail should be reduced to, whatever the amount is. All the interested parties are in agreement, and we just can't get, a judge to sign the order, and it's extremely frustrating. I don't really understand why it is so difficult. I don't know if they're concerned that there will be lots of these. I mean, over the course of the last 2 years, I probably had done maybe 4 of these self-surrenders where we needed to deal with bail. I mean, a lot of times folks come in and it's like, okay, bail set its schedule. Yeah, I think it's too high, but the judge isn't going to lower it. You just have to deal with that.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple factors that, we're going up against, and I'm, got very good friends, and I'm very good friends with our DA here in Sacramento, Anne-Marie Schubert. They understand, specifically she understands. We've had detailed conversations about this, that, bail is not meant to be punitive.
Right. However,
when you're in the trenches and you're a deputy DA and you've read the discovery, you've read these police reports, you're like, no, this man, you were hell bent on keeping this person. I shouldn't say this man, this person in jail and locked up. You get that position. But we have to step out of that. They have to step out of that, being down there on the field and look from the play booth and say, why are we setting bail? Why am I fighting for bail to be this high? And I have to say, unfortunately, to my good friends, it sometimes, a lot of times, is to be punitive. And that is what we've got to stop. So rather than fixing the solution, these legislators that are hell-bent on bail reform and criminal justice reform want to just eliminate it. I hate to repeat myself, but that's the fact. And you just asked, well, how are these judges going to do this? Judges don't want to do it, right? Well, you see, there's these people that have come up with a solution that will take it out of the judge's hands. They've created these computer programs. You'll answer 8, 9, 10 questions. These algorithms will come out, and they're going to spit out whether you're a risk or not. They're going to tell you whether you're going to go out and commit another crime or not.
Yeah, they're doing that in Yolo County. When you show up for arraignment, you're given a number. And based on that number, the judge makes a decision whether to release you or not release you. Now, what I've seen in Yolo, and I think this is pretty new because it was new to me when I was there 2 weeks ago, I guess, is if the number was low enough, then the public defender there would just say, let's release them on their own recognizance, and the judge was going along with it. If the number, and I don't remember exactly if it was 3 or 4 or something like that, then at that point, then he was just setting bail on on schedule, which, as we've talked about, I think is really high. And most of those guys, when they see that bail is going to be set, they're hanging their head because they know they're never going to bail out. But there's another thing that goes on when guys sit in custody. The truth is, it is hard to defend yourself when you're in jail. It's hard to meet with your lawyer. When I have clients that are out of custody, they come in my conference room, we sit and we have a cup of coffee, we, go over the case, we deal with, the issues, we can strategize, we can put stuff on the whiteboard, we can put presentations on the screen. When a guy's in custody, you can't do any of that, You're talking to him in Sacramento, you're talking to him through the glass. It is just much, much harder. And I think that's sometimes used to squeeze pleas out of people. I mean, I've seen guys plead to things just because they thought they could get out of custody. And they're like, I didn't do it, but I can't stay in here another minute. I gotta plead and get out of here. People being in custody, it's not supposed to be for that. It's not supposed to be a strategic advantage to the prosecution to squeeze a plea out of somebody. But the reality is that happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason that, and I'm going to tell you right now, what burns my gut is when these people use fake numbers. I'm not trying to play on fake news, but they're fake numbers down at our legislature. It fires me up. And when I hear a man who's supposed to be a senator representing his constituents use, and they continue to use it today, and we've told them they're wrong, they say that 63% of the people that are sitting in our county jails throughout California are pre-trial, meaning they're the people you just talked about, Mike, the guy in there waiting for trial. 63%. Scott Jones did a survey here. Sheriff Scott Jones did a survey here in Sacramento. It is less than 20% of the people that are in custody that are pre-trial. So how is it that Sacramento's an anomaly and the rest of the state of California is at 63%? It's because it's fake and it's false. Now, who are those 20%? We can talk about that in the next segment. And who are those people, and should they be there? And it's a good discussion.
Yeah, so, and we'll take that up after the break because we've got to give our sponsors a minute or two to discuss their products. So we'll be back in just a minute on Money 105.5, The Legal Hour with Mike Chastain.
In-N-Out Burger. Stop by today for your made-to-order double-double. 2 100% pure beef patties, 2 slices of real American cheese, hand-leaf lettuce, vine-ripened tomatoes, all on an old-fashioned sponge dough bun. That's what a hamburger's all about.
Happy Hour starts at 4 p.m. every Monday on Money 105.5. Join host and 32-year mortgage veteran Rob Warner every Monday as Rob adds value to your financial future by bringing in industry leaders in the financial, mortgage, and real estate industries. Stay informed and up to date on the latest trends in the ever-changing financial world. Listen every Monday at 4 p.m. The Happy Hour with Rob Warner of Guild Mortgage, or watch the show anytime by going to the Happy Hour with RobWarner.com.
This is Michael Medved for townhall.com. After a miserable summer for movies, with box office down some 15% across the board, September brought a big surprise. A modestly budgeted fright fest with no big names smashed all records for horror films or for September releases in general. It, based on a 1986 Stephen King novel and a 90s TV miniseries, centers on an ageless cannibal clown who arises from the sewers of a Maine town every 27 years to murder and mutilate local children. A group of outcast 13-year-olds does battle with this demonic force, while the film's only adults engage in incest, sadism, attempted rape, child abuse, and wanton cruelty. As in many Stephen King stories, supernatural power functions only on the dark side, never balanced by the goodly or the godly. The only genuinely scary aspect of the whole It phenomenon is the public reception for this mediocre product. The $117 million in opening weekend business is as grotesque as anything on screen. I'm Michael Medved.
Here's what's going on. It's the Money 105.5 Community Calendar. Sacramento churches, businesses, and residents are hosting the Sacramento City Awards celebration Thursday, September 28th at Calvary Christian Center to honor and celebrate the selfless efforts of outstanding police and community members that have made a positive impact in our neighborhoods. To get details, visit cityawardshub.com. The Pig Bowl Guns and Hoses charity baseball game between local police and firefighters will be Saturday, October 7th at Sac State, along with a home run derby and fun kids activities. Tickets are $10 each, but military and kids 5 and under are free. To get tickets, go online to pigball.org. And protect your family from West Nile and Zika virus by using insect repellent with DEET at dawn and dusk. And visit fightthebite.net to get more tips.
A couple of drinks after work, think you're doing okay, get in the car, and boom, you see the flashing lights and your heart stops. Hi, I'm Mike Chastain of the Chastain Law Office, and I literally wrote the book, How to Survive a DUI Arrest, What You Need to Know. When you're pulled over for a DUI, how you act matters. Be polite, stay calm, and follow directions. It may mean the difference between going home or going to jail. My book provides critical information you need to protect your livelihood, your driving privileges, and your reputation. To get a free copy, go to www.yoursacduiattorney.com. You can listen to me every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. for the Legal Hour, during the Happy Hour on Money 105.5 FM. If you've been arrested, call me for a free consultation right now. That's yoursacduiattorney.com. Bottom line, if you've been drinking, call for a ride. If you didn't and got caught, you better call Mike. I'm Mike Chastain, and my team fights for good people.
Now, back to the Legal Hour on Money 105.5 with your host, Mike Chastain.
And welcome back to the Legal Hour with Mike Chastain on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Looks like we're going to have some great weather this weekend, and I'm kind of glad that we're out of the triple digits now. It's starting to be comfortable. I like this time of year. Well, I am flying solo in that the Amazing E is not with us today, so we're going to miss her greatly. But we have a special guest today, Topo Padilla, who Topo and I have been talking about the bail bond industry, what's going on. There's a couple bills, and I think we kind of circled around, but we didn't actually say what happened with those bills that are
Squirrel.
Exactly. I got distracted there for a minute. But so you were pointing out that there were two bills that were working through the legislature, but they didn't get to the governor, right?
Well, AB 42, which was the assembly bill, it died.
Okay.
It got killed.
And that got killed a while ago.
Yeah, that was a couple months ago.
Right.
SB 10, however, part of how the legislature works, the Senate bill, once it gets through the Senate, then it gets sent over to the Assembly. And on the Assembly side of things, I have to say that our state is very fortunate. There's an assemblyman here, Assemblyman Jim Cooper, who's a retired captain from the Sheriff's Department, knows law enforcement as well as anybody in that capital, if not more than anybody. He was a street cop, a crime fighter. He did it all. But I got to see this side of Jim. Jim is a very moderate. He's social justice. He's a great man to have in that legislature because he really and truly can balance both sides of it. Well, I have to say this about Assemblyman Cooper. He has taken on the task of anything to doing with criminal justice. He's in front of it. He's off on the kilter on one thing that I feel that's a little bit, I see him, he should be doing different. But with this bail reform, I got to say he's right on mark. And I'm not saying that, and he's not doing it because he's my friend and I've known him for 30. He's doing it because he knows as a dope cop that somebody he caught for dope that he busted for selling to an undercover cop, if you just let them go, they're not coming back. And so he understands how it works and why it worked. And we work the streets a lot, together, and he gets it. So having him down there, he was able to go and talk to these other legislators and explain to them how it is the bail industry works and why it works. And fortunately enough, there is enough of those legislators down there that respected him, respected what he said, and didn't get caught up in the emotion of a concert like they had the other day on Capitol Mall. And, I don't want to say, screw the police, but that's what they did. The police are bad and, you're hurting us, the minorities and all that. No. That's not what this is about. Let's go have meaningful talks inside that building. And that's what Assemblyman Cooper's able to do. He did, in fact, do so much that SB 10 is made into a 2-year bill. What that means is it's going to be brought up in the next session. Between now and then, there's a lot of work to do on both sides. But what you're not going to see is you're not going to see Senator Hertzberg or Assemblyman Bonta try and sit down at a round table with some people that are on the opposite side and have meaningful discussion. Now, what they're going to do is what they're doing now. They're out creating hysteria that the bail industry is after poor, and they say it, poor black people in these black communities. And I'm going to tell you, I'll march many people in here that have said I have saved their lives and helped them by helping them get their case taken care of, whether they had to go do time or they were found innocent, and get their life back on track. And that's what this is about. And for these legislators, I got to tell you, they just get too caught up in the hysteria, and they are.
Well, you got to take the politics out of it. I mean, it's good that they're going to take more time to consider this. There are big advantages. I was talking in the last segment about how difficult it is to prepare a case with somebody in custody. But, there's another component to that. When a guy's out, I'll say a guy, but a gal as well, they can keep working, which means that they can continue to support their family. They can fund their defense. Make no mistake, being charged with a criminal offense can be expensive. And it's not just the lawyers, it's the experts, and it's the investigators, and it's the analysis that has to be done. There's a lot of other people that are involved in the process of putting together a defense besides your defense lawyer. But you can keep working and support that. And then you also have the ability to actually actively assist in putting your defense together, going to the scene and actually saying, this is, based on what I know, this is what happened. It's a whole lot different than having someone sketch a little drawing on the back of a piece of paper and say, well, I think that happened. Being in the, as they say, the scene of the crime, is really important. I remember, when I was a young lad, I used to watch Perry Mason, and it never occurred to me, how did Perry and his investigator get to the scene of the crime while the body was still there. That was always amazing to me, you know. It was like he had a bat phone or something. We don't get to go to the scene of the crime while, it's fresh.
Mike, we've known each other for some time now. I've never asked you this, but I'm going to now and put you on the spot. What TV lawyer made you want to become a lawyer, or did you aspire to be?
The truth is I didn't aspire to be a lawyer. I made the mistake of getting a political science degree in college, not knowing any better, and I get to my senior year and I realize there's no jobs for political scientists. So I went to law school, and because I liked school, school wasn't that difficult for me. Frankly, when I went to law school, I'd never met a lawyer in my whole life.
Oh, boy.
So I really had no idea, and I had no idea what a public defender was, much less what they did. So, I kind of fell into it. It was, I was a little rudderless at the moment, and I sort of fell into it. But I did like watching Perry Mason, and I did like watching Matlock and those kind of shows. But I wouldn't say I was inspired to be a lawyer. I was just always, oh, that's interesting. How smart is he? But anyway.
So on to the what you just said about people defending themselves and being in custody, and I agree with you. And I think that anybody with a reasonable mind would understand it's hard to defend yourself whether you're in jail. Who's in jail? So let's explore who's in our jail. And again, one time, fortunately, if you're in Sacramento, we were able to do this study, and we really dug down who's in jail that's pretrial, that has the ability to bail out, but they can't.
And when you're saying pretrial, this is before they've been convicted, before they've actually been sentenced to serve whatever time.
Yeah, that's correct. Right. Yeah. So we dug down, and the number of bails that were over $1 million was, I'm not going to say it was significant, but of the 20%, it was probably 5%. And then there was a bulk of people whose bail was between $250,000 and $1 million. Well, how did their bail get that high? Well, some of them and most of them were very serious crimes, whether it was sexual crimes, rapes, assault, with very, very serious circumstances to the victim. And most of all, it was people that had multiple crimes.
Right, priors.
They had priors. They got convicted and they were told, don't do it again, and they did it again. And now we really mean it, don't do it again. And, one of the things I always say at the Capitol when I'm down there, well, it's evident that some of these legislators were parents to their kids that told them not to put their hand in the cookie jar 9 or 10 or 12 times. I learned on the 1 or 2 basis, and maybe that's why I am the way I am. But it is unfortunate. That's why these bails are high. Now, how many of them are high that shouldn't be high? There is a number. Those are the people that we want to look at helping and fix now. Bail, its number one concern is and should be and shall remain public safety. If this person is released, do we think they'll go out and reoffend, go victimize somebody else? That is number one. And it should.
And nobody wants it. I mean, I absolutely guarantee you that I don't want my clients going out and reoffending because it makes my job a whole lot harder. Yeah. I don't think that, everybody's on the same page of that. And, I guess the question is, if you really think this person is going to reoffend, then maybe bail shouldn't be set at all.
Well, I'm going to say you say. Everybody should be in favor of that. Well, my friend, if we had enough time, I'd talk to you about New Jersey. And on a daily basis, there is a report that's put out on the people that are released because they eliminated the bail industry in New Jersey, essentially. It's still there. It's behind the glass, break only in case of emergency. And I think less than 10 bails have been posted since January 1st. With that being said, if you looked at the number of people that are being released without any surety, without any guarantee of returning, I'm talking repeat offenders, bad people that have done heinous crimes, heinous with a capital H. And these people, it is a revolving door. They're not going to learn. They are just like, shoot, this is a cakewalk. I could go through the list of people, and for anybody who really and truly out there that is listening to this and does care, I got to tell you, look at New Jersey bail reform, and you look at that, and you understand what's going on out there. Do we want that in California? New Jersey has 8 million people. That's our population. It's 8 million. We're at 36 million here in California. Their program skyrocketed costs just to get people out of jail with their little algorithm programs skyrocketed 20 times past what they budgeted for, and it is only September. And they haven't even factored in the people that have failed to appear and that who's out there looking for them. I know that's a little off base, but...
Well, no, that's exactly, I mean, that's kind of the point of what the bail bondsman does is when we talk about you essentially guarantee their appearance, it's either because they come because they've got money put up and they don't want to risk their parents' house or whatever the collateral is that they have forward. But they've also shown that they're responsible because they're doing the right things. They're taking, most of the times in those situations they have hired counsel. They're doing the responsible things. Whether they did it or didn't do it, they're doing the responsible things. But if they don't show up, somebody actively goes and gets them.
Right.
And that's the difference of what we're going to have a problem with, I think, with the pretrial services. There's just simply not the manpower, nor, frankly, the incentive.
No. I grew up with father, my dad, Greg. I know he's listening now. I am one of the luckiest human beings on this earth. He taught me responsibility, but he always taught me this one thing. Son, people have to have skin in the game. And if we were just sitting here playing poker and we were using fake chips, it's a lot different than if we have skin in the game. And
that's right.
That's what this whole thing is about. And look, the cops aren't out there just plucking people off the streets because they look poor. It's just not happening. That's a whole nother day, a whole nother discussion. But that is what they're using at the Capitol to eliminate bail. That.
Well, so we've got to take a break, our last break for the hour. So we'll be back in just a minute here on Money 105.5, The Legal Hour. A couple of drinks after work, think you're doing okay, get in the car, and boom, you see the flashing lights and your heart stops. Hi, I'm Mike Chastain of the Chastain Law Office, and I literally wrote the book, How to Survive a DUI Arrest, What You Need to Know. When you're pulled over for a DUI, how you act matters. Be polite, stay calm, and follow directions. It may mean the difference between going home or going to jail. My book provides critical information you need to protect your livelihood, your driving privileges, and your reputation. To get a free copy, go to www.yoursacduiattorney.com. You can listen to me every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. for the Legal Hour during the happy hour on Money 105.5 FM. If you've been arrested, call me for a free consultation right now. That's yoursacduiattorney.com. Bottom line, if you've been drinking, call for a ride. If you didn't and got caught, you better call Mike. I'm Mike Chastain, and my team fights for good people.
Now, back to the Legal Hour on Money 105.5 with your host, Mike Chastain.
And welcome back to the Legal Hour with Mike Chastain. I'm here with our special guest, Topo Padilla, and we've been talking about the bail bond industry. And at the break, we were talking about, in my view, one of the most important services that the bail bond industry does is goes and gets guys when they don't show up. And Topo, you were talking about the importance of having skin in the game. Well, in fact, the bail bondsman who posted the bond has skin in the game to go get somebody who hasn't shown up. Isn't that right?
Yeah, we do. And so some people think we put up the money. I want to clear that up. That is not what we do. We're insurance agents. I'm an insurance agent licensed by the California Department of Insurance. We put up an insurance policy similar to car, house, life insurance policy to the court, saying if this person makes all their court appearances, nothing shall happen. However, if they fail to appear, we have 6 months to get them back into court. Now, one of the things that we in the bail industry have that no other form of pretrial release has is we have indemnitors. This is what makes me so effective. I am, I'd like to claim to be a very, very good fugitive recovery agent. I think I am. I learned a lot from my father and my uncle, Leonard Padilla, and I've passed it on to my son. We are really, really good at finding people, most of all, because of our persistency. Mm-hmm. We don't stop. But secondly, because we have indemnitors. And you talked about a case. What's a recent case that we've worked, and it brings me back to just recently, a bondsman out of Oklahoma called me and said, "Hey, I've got a fugitive that is on the run. He's a friend of mine, and he says he's somewhere in California."
I assume it was the bail bondsman is the friend of yours, not the fugitive.
Yeah, he's somewhere in there in Central California, and I says, "Well, do you know how big Central California is? It's damn near as big as Oklahoma." He's a dear friend of mine, the bondsman. And so we rather than have him fly out there, I took up the chase for him. We chased this guy. Now, the interesting part about it is the suspect, his mother was the indemnitor. She co-signed. She was going to lose the bond. Well, in Oklahoma, I tell you this guy's bail was for drugs, a gun, a bunch of crimes. His bail was $7,500. Yeah, Mike just giggled for those out there in Radio
Land. They don't even
set
a DUI for that here.
Yeah. $7,500. But to this bondsman back there, that's a big deal. And he did not want that mother to lose $7,500. So here's the golden nail in my end of this thing. $7,500. Well, I've got mom as a co-signer. All I need to do is be a bookkeeper. Send mom a bill for $7,500. Say, here's your bill. Pay me the $7,500. I'm going to pay it to the court. That's not what our industry does. We protect our indemnitors. This bondsman busted his tail end, was getting ready to come out here. He calls me, hires me, me and my team. We go out and look for this guy for 4 days, all around Clovis, Modesto, Stockton, up and down the Central Valley. And it finally comes down to, we ran into a family member, and we said, "Hey, your auntie so-and-so? Yeah. She's going to lose the bond unless we find this guy." And they said, "Well, I don't want that to happen to her." And they turned around and said, "Well, here's the 2 houses he bounces back and forth. He knows you guys are looking for him. You're not going to see him in daylight. You're going to see him at night." And we just took a chance. We had a 50-50 shot. We had to hit one of the houses. We hit one of the houses on a complete ruse, and the guy tried to get out the back door, tried to get out the side door. He was met by my father at one, son at the other, and then my partner Jeff and I went in and took him into custody. And this guy ran into a room with us in pursuit where there was 2 little kids in that room. Such a danger and a tragedy. Do you know what those people in that house said? Were yelling and screaming, "Don't shoot my dog. Don't shoot my dog." Never made one mention about the children that were in that room. And that just goes to show you our society, man. We're a little bit messed up on our priorities. Don't shoot my dog. And I got it on video to show you, and it's a tragedy to hear that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that really kind of emphasizes the point that when you talk about saving the indemnitor, that's typically mom, dad, the spouse, brothers, sisters. I mean, people who post bail are typically family members, and sometimes they're aunts and uncles, and they're the ones who have really have skin in the game. They're saying Junior here will show, and I'm willing to put my house up for that.
They do, and I will say this. I've been in the business. Well, my dad's been in it since '79. Wow. I've been in it since 1983 is when I got licensed. We have foreclosed on one home in that entire time period, and it was with the agreement with the homeowner because they said, "Look, we owe you all this money. We really messed up. We're going to lose this house. Foreclose on it. Get your money. We did you wrong." I'm telling you, and I can bring in a line of bail bonds, and they'll tell you, "Well, I've never foreclosed on a house," because we do our job. And can you imagine this? This is Senator Hertzberg just introduced a new bill, and he wants to eliminate the bail industry because now he says the bail industry, and I don't want to use the words he used, but he says we're handing it to the criminal justice system because we're not paying our bills. Well, let me tell you something. That is completely wrong. He's off base, but I got to tell you, these progressives, they are slick. They're not anybody who says they're dumb. They're dumb. They're smart people. They're going to come at us from a different angle. So we do pay our bills. So back to mom and dad and brother and sister and aunt and uncle, we in the bail industry, we could walk away and just say, "Well, go get my indemnity. Go get the money from them. They're going to foreclose on their house." We don't. We fight tooth and nail. And those bondsmen from Alabama drove nonstop from Modesto all the way to Alabama. They texted me when they delivered him to the jail, and I said, "Good job, gentlemen," and I prayed for them because they were going to drive all day and night. That's what we do. And now, what does that give us as a society? I told you, Mike, that I sit on both sides of this because, well, you're a criminal defense lawyer. I'm a bail bonds, and I got lots of friends that are prosecutors and a lot of friends that are cops. The one thing I say, I can speak out of both sides of my mouth. When somebody's arrested, could be a victim. I want that victim to have justice just like you or anybody else does. I also want the person that's arrested to have justice. And that justice may come with prosecution, right, and they may have to do time. But what hopefully they do, learn their lesson and don't do it again.
Right. Well, justice doesn't necessarily mean doing time. I mean, it always bugs me when they, we've got to give the victim justice. Well, what that actually means could be a whole lot of things. Like the guy broke in your house because he's a drug addict, and what he really needs, what we as a community really need, is him to stop getting high. So we need treatment. We don't need jail. Now, I know, I'm a defense lawyer, so I'm going to be very pro to that. But from a community perspective, we're going to do a whole lot better. We're going to do a whole lot better if we do more rehab in that regard.
I hate to put you on the spot with only a few minutes left. What do you think about this thing with City Council where they are going to pay these known criminals to be good? What do you think? I hate to put you on the spot.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. If it works, it's a good investment. The question is, will it work?
Would you rather have seen that money go into drug rehabilitation?
I would actually rather see that money go into, early education so that they never got in the system at all. And that's really, unfortunately, I mean, older people my age get in trouble because they make bad judgments. But a lot of the crime is committed by folks who just, feel that they just don't have a stake in the game. They don't think they can go to school. They don't think they can ever account for much because their dad's been in prison, their granddad's been in prison. We need to break that cycle.
Yeah.
And that's and if they need rehab down the road, then they need rehab. We need to deal with all those things.
We do, but I tell you, I'd rather seen that money going into a weekly meeting for the homeless community to talk about, whether they have mental illness, drug rehab, to give that to these people and essentially reward them, I think is tragic. I don't think it's going to work. I couldn't believe that it even got brought up. It's my opinion.
It's a stretch, and I agree with you. I don't think it'll work, but sometimes you got to think outside the box, and maybe that will lead to something else. And this will lead to us having to close today. It's been a very interesting show. Again, thank you very much, Topo. You've been, as usual, a great guest. It's always a very interesting conversation. We will be back next week. I know we have a special guest. I just can't remember who it is. But he'll be here, and we'll be talking next week on The Legal Hour with Mike Chastain here on Money 105.5.